Please start.
Today, the topic of discussion is the modern day management of seminoma testes. It's a round two presentation, and the table of contents are the timely diagnosis of testicular carcinoma, management of low stage testicular seminoma, the challenge of poor prognosis in germ cell tumors, role of post chemotherapy surgery in germ cell tumors, post chemo RP epilepsy in patient with elevated markers. We will discuss its current concepts and clinical outcomes, management of non-retroperitoneal residual germ cell tumor masses. Then we will discuss the late relapse of testicular cancer, complication of the therapy, infertility, and test in the testis cancer, its surgical management, and the follow-up. The timely detection of cancer. According to the stats, that the delay from the initial symptoms to the definitive diagnosis by radical orchiectomy has averaged 4 to 5 months. Effects of delayed diagnosis on survival can be overcome, but at the cost of the more morbid treatment regime. Although screening on the population basis is not currently recommended by National Cancer Institute, it is reasonable to teach young patients having risk of having risk factors a self-testicular examination. It's a logarithm that if we have the testicular mass initial consultation, we do the testicular ultrasound, the serum markers, then we will do the inguinal orchiectomy. Alternatives in this the testicular sparing surgery is bilateral germ cell tumor or functionally solitary testis, and the mass is less than 2 centimeters. Confirmed diagnosis of germ cell tumor. When then we come to the staging, the CT abdomen pelvis with contrast, chest imaging, serum markers, and alternatives are the CT chest with evidence of nodal mass disease or arising tumor markers. MRI as an alternative to CT abdomen pelvis if contradiction is present. Then we will come to the final diagnosis, either it's a pure seminoma or mixed germ cell tumor. The testicular lesion, we have the diagnostic evaluation, the tumor markers, either they are elevated or normal. If they are elevated, the inguinal orchiectomy, and or if they are normal, and the tumor size, tumor volume is less than 2.8 centimeter cube, the history of hormonal disorder or infertility, of symptoms. And the long-term derivation of symptoms we will do for the inguinal orchiectomy, and one third of the patient will go for the individual DCM or testicular sparing surgery, or all of them approximately the testis sparing surgery. Management of low-stage testicular seminoma. It's a multidisciplinary approach to a curable nucleus. It includes a surgeon, medical oncologist, radiation oncologist. Stage 1 disease. Major controversies continue to revolve around the surveillance versus adjuvant treatment, and more recent adjuvant radiotherapy or carboplatin-based chemotherapy. Focusing on the long-term complications such as serious diseases, gastro diseases, or secondary cancers, has led to concept of increased surveillance with the therapy for those who relapse. In stage 2A disease, radiation therapy remains the mainstay of the therapy for patients who have stage 2 disease. Diagnosis and treatment of the early stage of testicular cancer. The pure seminoma in stage 1, preferred surveillance, and the alternatives are the adjuvant para-aortic radiotherapy or adjuvant carboplatin chemotherapy. In stage 2A, 2B with mass less than 3 centimeter, dogleg radiotherapy less than 30 days for risk-appropriate multi-agent cisplatin based chemotherapy. In stage 2B with mass greater than 3 centimeter, risk-appropriate and multi-agent cisplatin based chemotherapy. So here's the logarithm for the seminoma of a clinical stage 1. It could be, we can do either surveillance or adjuvant carboplatin therapy, or adjuvant radiotherapy or retroperitoneal para-aortic lymphatics with 20 grade. In the surveillance, the relapse rate is approximately 12 to 16%, whereas in the adjuvant carboplatin, the relapse rate is 3 to 4%, and in the adjuvant radiotherapy, the relapse rate is 3 to 4%. If the relapse occurs, limited local regional relapse, radiotherapy or chemotherapy with DEP or EP, and the extensive local regional or systemic relapse chemotherapy. The cure rate is approximately 99%. That's why the seminoma is highly radiosensitive. Seminoma in an advanced disease in the prognostic group of it's a good prognosis or intermediate prognosis. In the good prognosis, that chemotherapy for 3 cycles over 5 days if conditioned against the bleomycin. EP for 4 days, we can schedule the platinum for 1 to 2 days, 1 to 2 cycles for 1 to 5 days, and epicide for 1 to 3 cycles for 1 to 5 days. And in the intermediate risk group, the bed 4 cycles for 5 scheduled days if the condition against the bleomycin. Repeat the cycle for 22 days if no fever, no infection, platelets are greater than 100,000, neutrophils are greater than 500, and prophylaxis of CSF only the neutropenic fever and infection in the previous cycle. Residual tumor markers are normalized, resectable disease, and markers could be the elevated but on the plateau. Markers or it could be by the during the chemotherapy. So we will do the follow-up for 4 to 12 weeks. No increase in the markers, or either we will find an increase in the markers. If we find no increase in the markers, we will do the resection. And we, in the resection, necrosis or teratoma, complete resection, greater than 10% viable tumor cells, incomplete resection of the viable tumor. And we will continue for the follow-up consolidation chemotherapy, which is VIP for 2 cycles. And if we find the increased markers, then salvage chemotherapy with PEI or VIP treatment with platinum base. If platinum is not possible, Placid can be used. Role of post-chemo surgery in germ cell tumors. Surgery after systemic chemotherapy for advanced testicular cancer has maintained its role in staging and therapeutic management. The clinical outcome is strongly influenced by patient selection and extent of extirpated surgery. Complete removal of all post-chemotherapy residual masses in non-seminimatous germ cell tumor remain the standard of care and allows for improved prognostication of long-term oncologic and functional outcomes. Elevated serum tumor markers after cisplatin-based chemotherapy usually contraindicate surgery because of the presence of active germ cell elements. However, some patients have undergone post-chemotherapy RPLND with curative intent. Evaluated role of surgery to resect retroperitoneal only marker positive tumors. Current concept and its clinical outcome. The predictor of retroperitoneal teratoma or fibrosis include declining tumor markers at surgery, beta HCG less than 100, and first line chemotherapy. Predictors of death include rising preoperative beta HCG, elevated AFP, redo RPLND, and active germ cell cancer in the resected specimen. Residual germ cell cancer was identified in 50% of the patients with elevated tumor markers, with 1/3 alive at 5 years, and 5-year survival with residual teratoma or necrosis was 77.5 and 85.7 respectively. Post-chemotherapy RPLND, large retroperitoneal tumors and severe desmoplastic reaction make post-chemotherapy RPLND one of the most difficult and dangerous operations undertaken by urologists. The standard bilateral RPLND should be performed, and resection of the residual mass without RPLND is inappropriate. The left para-aortic region is the most common site of the local weakness prompting reoperation. Post-chemotherapy thoracotomy. gives important prognostic information, therapeutic in most patients with resected teratoma and subset of patients with viable cancer. Management of non-retroperitoneal residual germ cell tumors. In last 20 years, approximately 1,95,969 patients were diagnosed with testicle cancer in US, and that 22,144 of those patients had non-retroperitoneal mets at the time of diagnosis. Although most patients with testicular cancer can be cured with platinum-based systemic chemotherapy, 35% of the patients with stage 3 and 4 disease will have residual non-retroperitoneal masses after treatment. The management paradigm of retroperitoneal disease following chemotherapy of germ cell tumor are influenced by the site of mets as well as whether there is similar histology between the testicle and the metastatic sites. Although RPLND findings such as presence of fibrosis only are helpful indicator of similar histology. No set of criteria provides a perfect prediction such that the risk of residual teratoma or viable germ cell tumor outside the retroperitoneum is eliminated. This acknowledgement, in conjunction with the long-term survival data favoring resection, established that surgical resection remains an important part of the management of the patient with non-retroperitoneal residual masses. Late relapse of the testicular cancer. The late relapse is defined as recurrence more than 2 years following cure after chemotherapy for metastatic testicular carcinoma, with or without residual tumor surgery. According to pooled analysis, this occurs in 1.4% and 3.2% of the seminoma and non-seminoma patients, respectively. When feasible, all lesions of the late relapsing non-seminoma patient should be removed by radical surgery. Patients with rapidly rising beta HCG may benefit from induction salvage chemotherapy before complete resection is attempted. Survival strongly relates to histology of the removed lesion rather than the initial presenting tumor. Interestingly, in a population-based study, all late relapsing seminoma patients had viable germ cell tumor. If the lesions are not completely resectable, biopsies should be obtained from histological assessment and salvage chemotherapy should be initiated based on the histological phenotype. If the patient responds to salvage chemotherapy, secondary surgery should be conducted whenever possible. In the case of unresected but localized refractory disease, psoriatic or conventional radiotherapy may be considered. To avoid excess mortality, late relapse should be treated only at centers experienced in managing such complication of therapy of for the testicular cancer. Second, malignant neoplasm can occur leukemia, infection, pulmonary complications, serious toxicity, Raynaud-like phenomena, neurotoxicity, cognitive function, autotoxicity, nephrotoxicity, hypogonadism, fatigue, and quality of life can be compromised as well. Infertility and in the testicular carcinoma, cytotoxic chemotherapy has been shown to have long-term deleterious effect on the leading cell function. Platinum-based chemotherapy regime cause both leading and circularized cell dysfunction. Nadir in the spermatogenesis is reached in 10 to 14 months. Cryopreservation of sperm, which is also known as sperm banking, is recommended before chemotherapy for testicular cancer. And now we will discuss the surgical management. The orchiectomy, retroperitoneal lymphodissection, which is also known as open or classical RPLND, modification of classic RPLND into appropriate nurse sparing, and the laparoscopic RPLND and robotic RPLND. Orchiectomy, the radical inguinal orchiectomy, the testes and spermatic cord are removed through an incision made in the groin. At times, a prosthetic saline-filled testicular implant can be placed. Subcapsular orchiectomy, during subcapsular orchiectomy, only the granular tissue lining the ring is replaced. And simple orchiectomy, during the simple orchiectomy, the testis is removed through the scrotum. As a radical inguinal orchiectomy, a prosthetic testicle can be inserted in both simple and radical orchiectomy. A single testis can be removed or both testicles, which is called bilateral orchiectomy. There is a diagram showing the incision above the inguinal ligament. Approach of the radical inguinal orchiectomy, the incision is shown in the inside. The external oblique fascia is divided in line with the fibers down to the external inguinal ligament. And here we can see the Penrose drain tightened and clamped around the cord. After the cord has been controlled with a tightened Penrose drain or a rubber short clamp, the testis is mobilized out of the scrotum during plant dissection. And this is the retroperitoneal anatomy showing the bunch of many the lymph nodes. So there are 12 group of lymph nodes we can appreciate, and we have to deal with these lymph nodes. Any one of them can carry the mass from the testicular carcinoma.
Just two words
So
about
we can-
Faizan. Go back to the previous slide. Right. So you see the difference between surgery which is done for the purpose of testicular cancer and the surgery which is done for those cases where you want to take out the testis but not for the purpose of testicular cancer. The difference is the incision. The difference is the radical orchiectomy takes all the things, rather they are pulled up from the scrotal sac, just because of the reason that there is a difference in the lymphatic outflow of both the structures. For instance, if we make an incision on the scrotum and take out the testis from the scrotum, then the scrotal wall, the skin, has got a different lymphatic drainage site as compared to the testis itself and the cord and the structures which are attached to it, that is within the inguinal canal. So if you violate this this dividing line, then normally what happens is that this skin of the scrotum is drained into the lymph nodes which are the iliac lymph nodes, whereas the testis is drained into lymph nodes which are actually those lymph nodes as we have seen in the as you are showing in the other slide, those lymph nodes which are actually on the in the interaortocaval area and in the para-aortic and peri-aortic areas. You see, so if you violate this incision, simple incision from the original position of inguinal to the scrotum, then this thing will be changed. The disease will have another route to follow. The same thing happens, for instance, in retroperitoneal dissection. Now there are two things: either there is a retroperitoneal mass and you are taking that mass. It is something different from retroperitoneal lymph node dissection. Now suppose you are doing a lymph node dissection and the tumor was on the right side, that is the right testicular tumor was there, the left testis was normal. So in that case, the template of RP-LND will be up to the common iliac and the division of common iliac into internal and external iliac on the ipsilateral side, and on the contralateral side it will include something which is sparing the iliac vessels, that is just at the level of bifurcation of aorta. You see, the template is different on the ipsilateral side as well as on the contralateral side. All the lymph nodes which either are palpable or are impalpable, they have to be taken out in RP-LND. It is not the case that you take out the mass. Mass either present or is absent doesn't matter. What matters is you have to clear all the lymph nodes, whether they are grossly involved or whether they are microscopically involved, we don't know, but we have to take out and clear off everything. So on the ipsilateral side where the disease is, it is different from the contralateral side, but both the sides have to be taken. For instance, on the flip side, if you have got a tumor on the left side, meaning to say left testis was involved with the tumor, then all the lymph nodes on the ipsilateral side have to be included right up to the bifurcation of common iliac. But on the contralateral side, it will end just at the bifurcation of the inferior vena cava and the interaortocaval area, just at the level of bifurcation of aorta. So the template changes from ipsilateral to contralateral.
Sir.
Yes, please. Please continue.
Yes. So the retroperitoneal lymph nodes and testicular cancer. Retroperitoneal lymph node spread is usually the first and often the only site of metastatic disease. 15% to 40% of the patients are clinically understage, particularly in the retroperitoneal. Untreated retroperitoneal lymph node metastases are usually fatal. Retroperitoneal lymph node dissection. RPLND is a technically complex surgery with removal of retroperitoneal lymph nodes while preserving the great vessels surrounding the organs and ejaculatory nerves. Strong consideration for referral to an experienced testis cancer surgeon or center is advised. The role of minimally invasive RPLND in the management of germ cell tumor is controversial. RPLND should be performed with curative intent. RPLND should not be performed as a staging modality alone. Suprahilar dissections are usually performed for residual hilar or suprahilar masses after cytoreductive chemotherapy or advanced stage. Loss of antegrade ejaculation, most common morbidity. Advice to complete sperm banking before surgery. Paravertebral sympathetic ganglia, postganglionic sympathetic fibers T2 to L4 and their convergence at the hypogastric plexus are most crucial in the preservation of antegrade ejaculation. RPLND techniques, the transabdominal or thoracoabdominal approaches. In the thoracoabdominal approach, easier visualization and dissection of the suprahilar lymphatic tissue and less risk of post-operative. This is the surgical template of bilateral RPLND, and we can see the inferior vena cava, superior mesenteric arteries, and inferior mesenteric arteries. This is the bilateral RPLND template.
Just a correction, Faizan here.
Yes, sir.
One thing, maybe I was a little miss at when I was giving the statement about the scrotal wall lymph drainage. Scrotal wall is skin, or the skin of the scrotum is drained into the inguinal lymph nodes. I have said something about iliac lymph nodes. But the iliac lymph nodes are involved by the testis itself and the cord, right? And the second thing is about this template. This template is a little bit incorrect. You have to, again, the testes are either on the left side or the right side which are involved by the tumor. If both the testes are involved by the tumor and you have taken them out by doing bilateral radical orchiectomy and they are confirmed on biopsy, then the template of RPLND should include both the sides up to the level of bifurcation of iliacs, common iliacs, right?
Yes, sir.
So it doesn't end at this point which is shown in the diagram if both the testes are involved. But suppose if the right testis is involved and the left testis is spared, meaning to say it is normal, then you have to make the ipsilateral side a little down to the level of bifurcation of common iliac, and the contralateral side will remain at this point which is shown in the diagram, right? So again, if the left is involved, then you have to pull it down to the level of common iliac on the left side, but the right side, it remains as such as is shown in this diagram. So that is the difference.
Is this?
Yes, this is, but a little bit down further. If it includes the bifurcation of common iliac, then it is okay.
Right. And this.
Yes, this is the same. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it's not like it's not oblique. It is a flat. It is rather flat, a little bit down. So it depends how you draw the diagram.
Yes, sir. So the transabdominal technique, the incision of the posterior parietal peritoneum, the incision extends from the ligament of Treves along the left side of the root of the small bowel, mesentery to the ileocecal region. It may be extended superiorly and medially to the duodenojejunal flexure, infrolaterally around the cecum and ascending colon. The left leaf of the incised posterior peritoneum is defined. The development of the left leaf of the incised posterior peritoneum in the avascular plane between the inferior mesenteric vein and the left gonadal vein. The colonic mesentery lies anteriorly and the para-aortic space and Girota's fascia lie posteriorly. The retroperitoneal space has been exposed and the duodenum has been cauterized. Its second, third, and fourth portion have been reflected superiorly along with the pancreas and the superior mesenteric artery. The entire right colon has been mobilized and externalized. The region of attachment between the under surface of the duodenum and the pancreas and the anterior surface of the left renal vein. It is important to click lymphatic channels in this area. The prominent lacteals in the vicinity of the superior mesenteric artery are often seen. The caution: 20% of the patient will have accessory renal arteries, 2 to 3% of the patient will have retroaortic left renal veins. Important to recognize retroaortic left renal vein because it may be inadvertently mistaken for lumbar vein and ligated, or the pancreas and superior mesenteric artery may be injured. Left adenectomy. And in this diagram from figure A to G, subsequently this diagram shows the split and roll technique that allows for an in-block removal of nodal package. The lumbar vessel must be divided twice, first at the wall of the great vessel and again as they enter the foramina alongside the vertebral bodies. Nerve sparing RPLND surgery for the retroperitoneal nodal bed junction tumor of the testes has evolved considerably. Minimizing the LG to sympathetic nerve has involved their exclusion from resection boundaries and or nerve sparing by identifying and preserving nerves within the resection field. These measures improve long-term procedure-related morbidity with equivalent rates of cancer control. We believe that nerve-sparing techniques are the standard of care and enforce good principles of surgery by demanding attention to anatomy, exposure, and thoughtful clinical and surgical decision making are important imperative to achieving acceptable results. It behaves urologic oncologists to offer a patient maximal therapeutic benefit combined with minimal morbidity, and that retroperitoneal lymph adenectomy should be nerve-sparing by definition. A nerve-sparing technique with soft vascular tapes around the right postganglionic branches of the sympathetic chain as they post in oblique fashion towards the hypogastric plexus. Their relationship to the great vessel, lumbar veins, and the root of inferior mesenteric artery is shown. And the surgical templates of modified left and right are again the same. Antegrade ejaculation. Antegrade ejaculation, L3 and L4 ganglia, nerve fiber often exist in close proximity to lumbar vessel, and great care must be taken in ligating them to avoid injury. Lymph adenectomy then proceeds as just described with the appropriate template. Again, when performing nerve sparing RPLND dissection on the aorta should be done only after the nerve fibers have been isolated and protected. Proper nerve sparing technique result in greater than 95% rates of anti-grade ejaculation. The indication for laparoscopic RPLND, the clinical stage 1 non-centimeter testis tumor, negative testis tumor markers, candidate otherwise considered for surveillance, no absolute contraindication for laparoscopic surgery, residual isolated abdominal or pelvic mass after chemotherapy in the presence of negative testicular tumor markers. These cases must be individualized and approached very cautiously. Laparoscopic surgery. 4 or 5 laparoscopic ports are generally used to RPLND. It is best to use at least 10 mm Procast at all sites since this allows maximal flexibility in moving instrument to facilitate the dissection. In addition, a single 12 mm Procast is also useful since there may be occasion when a Procast of this size is necessary for placement of large gastric forceps or endoscopic structures. In this diagram, we can see there is a 12 mm camera port and the 12 mm assistant port and 8 mm ports as well. This is on the left side and this is on the right side. And this is again another diagram showing this 5 mm ports and 12 mm ports. And this the Procast placement of laparoscopic RPLND in 4 10 millimeter Procast are placed in the midline, evenly spaced from Z5 process to the pubic symphysis. Laparoscopic assess, once pneumoperitoneum has been established, 4 10 to 12 mm ports are placed. The most superior port is placed 2 cm below the Z5 process and the most inferior Procast 3 cm above the pubic symphysis. The remaining 2 ports are spaced equidistantly along the midline between the other 2 Procasts. An additional 5 mm port may be placed laterally to assist with the spermatic cord dissection. After placing the Procast, the operating room table is rotated to elevate the side of the dissection. The patient is also placed in slight Trendelenburg position to assist with the passive bowel retraction. If additional bowel retraction is needed, a paddle can be placed through to the most inferior port. And this is the we can see the operating room environment, the surgeon and his assistant. And this is the new thing, the advancement, the robotics. And the Da Vinci system, and we can see this the placement of the Procast, and the left sided and the right sided RPLND. And this is the Da Vinci surgical robot. And here it is the camera port and the robotic ports of the 8 mm and assistant port as well. And this is also some sort of the robotics
Support placement. Yes.
Yes. And this is also the robots. And we can compare the bones as well, the smaller bones and fewer problems and the same results, or even we can say the better results of the laparoscopic surgery than the open surgery we do.
Right.
And this is a follow-up in the bulky clinical stage 2B and stage 3 seminoma surveillance post-chemotherapy with non-residual mass or residual mass less than 3 centimeter. History and physical examination every 2 months, and along with abdominal pelvic CT at 3 to 6 months, then is clinically indicated. PET scan as clinically indicated. Chest X-ray every 2 months, and every 3 months, and as we progress to up to the 5 years, we will do it annually. These are my references, and this is the question when I was studying about the robots. Will silicon take over the carbon?
Let's see.
Yes, sir.
So it
Thank
is.
you.
So have you read this book, Homo Deus?
Yes, sir.
So you will Noah Harari.
Yes, sir.
So I'll talk about this person to you when you come back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. So thank you very much. It was a good resume of the topic. We have got our friend Arif over there. Arif, are you listening to me?
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Yes, sir.
So what is your experience about this testicular tumor in Bangladesh?
First of all, very well presented. We got very less patient. I don't know. Now our center is a medical college hospital.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a referral center.
Right.
We got very small little patient.
Right.
Most of them are in primary staging
Mm-hmm.
and germ cell tumor mostly.
Right. So you see, whenever this topic of testicular tumor is discussed, this is always one of the impressions that individual people who are working in centers, who are not high volume centers, they get less amount of cases of testicular tumor in their clinical experience. This not only happens in our part of the world, but also it happens in America and in Europe. So what they have done, they have made certain centers as referring centers, so that everybody who sees a testicular tumor, they are allowed to operate on the patients. But for rest of the things, for instance, RPLND and chemotherapy, they are referred to particular high volume centers who are typically dealing with testicular tumors, so that the expertise is actually something which is needed. Expertise in doing RPLND, and because this is a procedure which has got a lot of complications attached to them, for instance, in terms of sympathectomy and the effects of sympathectomy on the later life of the person. So all these cases, they have to be done by certain centers who are actually doing RPLNDs in a higher frequency in terms of numbers. So when that is done, the morbidity index will go down, and the patient will be able to have less amount of complications. So this is something which is which we should always do on a country basis, perhaps on a provincial basis. So what the last 10 years or so experience of SIUT was, nobody has given us that right of a referring center, but unconventionally we are a referring center for testicular tumor, and we get a lot of cases in the past 10 years or so, or particularly in the last 5 years, and RPLND is now something of a routine kind of a case. Maybe every 2 weeks we have got one case of this kind of dissection. So now our experience is more. We have got a very low index of morbidity as compared to our previous experiences maybe 10 years back. So this is something which has been done, and this is something which is an improvement on the topic of testicular tumor and its management, a proper management. Similarly, since we have got all the things available under one roof, meaning to say surgical oncology, medical oncology and radiation oncology, then that makes us better equipped to treat and manage these patients. They are not needed to go to any other place. Everything is done under one roof without any cost. Needless to say this. So this is something which I can give you as some information or news since the time you have left us. Right. So I think that's all for today as regards this presentation is concerned. Arif, thank you very much for your presence. On Saturday we have two presentations going one after the other. We'll start at 11 o'clock Pakistan time on Saturday, and then because we have got less amount of time before the Ramzan ends, so we want to wrap it up in the next week, right? So I'll let you know what are those topics.
Inshallah, thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Arif. Hafiz.